Hi everyone, David Aragona here with Mike Beer, taking a look at the DRF Thursday race of the day. This is race 7 at Gulfstream Park, going the mile and a 16th distance on the dirt course for the 3-year-old fillies. This is a first level allowance slash $75,000 optional claiming event. Mike, we've got a field of 7 runners signed on for this race, and I've got to think that the 2 that are pegged as the lowest prices on the morning line are going to be the ones that vie for favoritism. And here, the number 2, Blueberry Hill, who's stepping up against winners for the first time after a pretty nice debut win, and the 6 Justin Queso, who has never crossed the wire first, but is a horse who is stepping back down in class from Stakes Company.
Yeah, we'll see how these horses handle 2 turns in this race, and just see if there's really well spotted here. David, Blueberry Hill, the second choice on the morning line, only 1 start, really impressive winning that race though for Fletcher.
Let's check out the Time Form US pace projector to see where these 2 fillies could be placed early in this race as they head into that clubhouse turn. And Blueberry Hill did show plenty of speed over a sprint distance on debut, so you've got to imagine the connections are looking to be forward in this 2-turn race. Mike, the 3, Anna's Promise, does seem like a horse that will be challenging for the front end. She's run some nice races when she gets to the lead, did win from a stalking position sprinting last time, so it does kind of feel like those 2 will be forward, though the 6, Justin Queso, is a horse that did show more speed on debut, so her position on the pace projector might not be a great representation of where she'll be early.
Okay, I think that's fair. I mean, she did get herself into, it's not like she had, blazing speed in her debut, but she really did get herself into position sprinting. And then the most recent start in the stakes race, I don't really care about that one where she sort of got outrun early. I'm with you. I think she'll get more forward in this race. Also, and we'll see. I guess I'm not sure if I agree with the fast pace designation.
Yeah, not to get too much into the weeds on the pace projector, but the 6 Justin Queso, there were no pace figures for her debut race or speed figures, and we'll get into why that is a little later when we get to her. But the pace projector is only being based on her last race, which is why she's shown a little further back. So maybe take her position there with a grain of salt. Before we get into our handicapping of this race, do note this is the Thursday race of the day, so you can get free all-access past performances for this race. Formulator Classic, Time Form US, access those on the Race of the Day page on DRF.com to handicap along with us. Let's begin the conversation, Mike, with the number 1, Quinn's Promise, who tried this level at Gulfstream Park last time, going the 2-turn distance, was no match for Paradise City, who improved a lot for Safi Joseph to win that race. But she had faced some nice horses prior to that. She was in a surprisingly live allowance race 3 back, where the top 2 finishers have since come back to place in Kentucky Oaks preps, and was beaten by a very good horse 2 back in Bookham. She's just got to improve a little bit from a speed figure standpoint, but if the pace heats up, I guess it's going to work for her.
I guess, yeah. We'll see if she can just, sort of break through with a faster race, because she's, had more starts than anybody else in here, David. She really hasn't run a fast race yet. So, she's got the 2-turn experience, and she's got a really good post here, and a post that she could get forward from too. It just maybe really fall into a trip here. It's just a question of whether or not she can take a step forward finally, because she hasn't done that yet.
The number 2 is Blueberry Hill, one of those likely favorites in this race going out for the Todd Pletcher barn. And we'll take a look at the replay of her debut run, where she got to the front end early, took some pressure from the other horse that took money in this race around the far turn, and just kicked away from that more experienced rival in the stretch, opening up all the way to the wire. You had to like the professionalism she showed this day, Mike, though you will note she's not loving the riding crop as she's swishing her tail every time Irene Ortiz uses it all the way through the stretch. But still, she won this race handily in the end. She's got to stretch out in distance. When I look through this pedigree, Mike, there's a lot of precocity in there, but there is enough stamina to suggest that she should be able to go at least this far.
Yeah, I thought there was enough distance for her to stretch out to the mile and a 60. There's also a lot of grass if you go back in her family. So we'll see if there's ultimately a surface switch coming for her. But listen, I just thought she did everything right on debut. Maybe it was just sort of a bad field. I know the horse that she turned away there and then got clear of was an odds-on favorite for Brad Cox, but that horse certainly still has something to prove. I just liked her debut, David. She sort of did everything right there. The flashing her tail there through the stretch aside, just very handy on the lead. When it was time to go, she won that race very convincingly. I just thought she was the horse to beat, even though she's not the morning line favorite.
Yeah, I'll be surprised. I'll be interested to see, if she goes favored in this race. Todd Pletcher does have very good statistics in terms of the winning percentage with horses that are stretching out for their second starts against winners, but the ROI is not really there, suggesting that these horses do get bet. The number 3 is Anna's Promise, another horse coming off a maiden win, and we'll take a look at the replay of that race. She earned this victory against optional claiming foes in for the $50,000 tag this day, and she was picked up by new connections as she was claimed away from Dale Romans and will be going out for Carlos David here. And like she finally got the job done from a stalking position here in her 6th career start. She's been steadily improving over the course of her career. I just don't know if I like her stretching back out to the 2 turns.
Yeah, I didn't like that about her either. I mean, she did run pretty well there, breaking her maiden last time. I thought pretty good finish that she put in at the end to get the job done. So maybe that is why they're going to try to give her a little more distance to work with. Again, I didn't really particularly like her longer races as a 2-year-old, but maybe she's better now.
The number 4 is Ruth, a homebred going out for trainer Todd Pletcher, who has plenty of stamina in her pedigree, so distance should be no problem for her. She's actually a full sister to Mopetism, who some people might now be familiar with as the dam of perhaps new Kentucky Derby favorite journalism. And Ruth was pretty impressive on debut, Mike, from the visual standpoint. Not so much against the stopwatch because it was a slow race, but she did give the impression in that 1 turn mile affair that more distance was going to be her friend. I don't think we really got that proven to us last time in the Busanda, given the way her trip worked out.
Yeah, that's kind of how I looked at her too. I mean, obviously it wasn't a very fast race first time out, but I basically liked everything that she did there, David. She took a ton of money in that race. It's not like she got a great trip in there, and she sort of overcame it all to win that race. So I really liked her debut. And then I don't know what you're supposed to do with the Busan. Obviously, a terrible stumble at the start anyway, so she wasn't going to win. But that just wasn't the kind of race anyway where you wanted to be off the pace and trying to close. It just was never going to work out. And by the way, it's not like she didn't run it all in there. She actually tried to make a run around the final turn, but it wasn't that kind of race.
Yeah, she does feel like one that could appreciate any pace that develops in here. The number 5 is Queen in the Deck, and she's one of the more experienced runners in this field, making the 9th start of her career. And do note she is getting Lasix for the first time as she drops out of the Suncoast in her last race, where she was no match for runaway winner Lacara, though she did get pushed very wide around the far turn in there. Not that she was ever going to hit the board, but that was far from the ideal trip. Mike, she looked good winning her maiden event 2 back, but just wasn't beating much of a field that day.
Yeah, I mean, listen, she's got the 2 turn win, so she has that going for her, but she's still slow on the way into this race. And when you go 3 back when Ruth beat her, and you go back and watch the replay of that race, it's hard to think that she's going to be able to turn the tables on that rival.
The 6 is Justin Queso, who is that 8-5 morning line favorite. And like I mentioned at the start, a horse who has never crossed the wire first, though I do think she was legitimately put up on debut. And we'll take a look at the replay of that race where the horse who does cross the wire first, another first-time starter who did take a lot of money for the Saffie Joseph part, just drifts out and herds out Justin Queso all the way through the stretch of this race. So definitely impeding that one's momentum. And you'll see Joe Bravo does maybe do a little bit of an acting job, but did have to take up on her a little bit at the very end of this race, preventing her from finishing it off under her best power. And like they asked a lot of her stretching out to 7 furlongs against tougher company in the Forward Gal last time. Didn't do much running in there. I just come back to her debut race, which I know got an 85 buyer. That was one of those days where it's kind of impossible to make speed figures because there were only 2 dirt races on the entire card. And Craig Milkowski, who makes the Timeform US speed figures, elected not to even make a number, which is why it's affecting the Timeform US pace projector. So she was a tough read for me.
Yeah, tough read for me too. I just really didn't know what to do with her, David, because she you could say that you couldn't expect her to run that well last time in the grade 3, although she actually took some money in there. And to me, she just didn't really run that well. I actually had a little bit of trouble on the turn, but I didn't think it really affected her that much. And she just didn't run at all. Her debut was fine. Listen, maybe the horse that wound up winning that race, who still hasn't run back yet, maybe that horse is good. I don't know. She certainly had some good speed. To me, she's way too tough a call, especially if she's going to be around that morning line.
And then rounding out the field on the outside is the number 7 Pure Beauty, an expensive daughter of Malibu Moon, who debuted in a really tough maiden event last summer at Saratoga behind eventual Grade 1 Frisette winner Scottish Lassie, as well as Quick Kick, who did go on to be 3rd in the Breeders' Cup. So that was certainly a key race at the time, and she didn't do any running in there, but came back off the layup last time, stretching out to the mile at Gulfstream Park, and definitely took a step forward with the blinkers and the distance and just, the maturity as she traveled well into the race and was able to finish off and beat that field. I don't think she was defeating much on that occasion, Mike, but I do like the progression of these types. And Shook McGahee does have a way of getting these horses to continue their improvement.
Yeah, he certainly does. Yeah, we'll see if she can move. I mean, she's another one who just hasn't run a fast race yet, even though she got the maiden win last time. It's a super, super slow race. She also, I don't know if you agree with this or not, David, that was excellent ride from Dylan Davis. Everything worked perfectly for him. He came clear at the top of the stretch, and she was game. It's a tough race to evaluate. It came back slow. The 2nd and 3rd finishers were both first-time starters, so who knows if they're any good. We'll see how much faster she can get.
And I did find this DRF formulator fact for trainer Shug McGahee, which I put up here because it surprised me a little bit. In Gulfstream Park dirt routes with 3-year-olds over the past 5 years, he's winning at a high percentage with 34 starters and a healthy $3.57 ROI. And when I was digging into this ad, I was thinking, oh, well, it must be a bunch of maidens. That is not the case at all. If you filter it down to non-maidens, he's 8 for 16. So Shug has definitely had a lot of success in these types of races at Gulfstream Park in recent years. Mike, let's throw up our picks for this race. And I'm going to go with that long shot, the number 7, Pure Beauty, just hoping she can take another step forward. I don't want to put too much into dirt speed figures at Gulfstream Park. She does have to get faster, but I'm hoping that last race was a little stronger than the 55 buyer it was assigned. And I'm just hoping that she's the one who really sees out this mile in the 16th distance.
Yeah, I can see that. There's nothing wrong with taking a shot with that horse. I felt like between the two favorites, I much preferred the 2 to the 6. So I put the Pletcher horse second, and I went with the other Pletcher horse in this race, Ruth. I'm just going to hope that she can find the right trip in here. I just think you're supposed to give her a pass for the Bisonda last time, and I actually really did think she did some good things on debut.
If you like this video, make sure to hit that like button below and subscribe to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike's going forward to 6-7 and 7-4-2-1 for me in the Thursday race of the day, race 7 at Gulfstream Park. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.